Most news outlets in the US think you're dumb. They deceive you as much as possible, especially when they talk about things like Mexico. For well over 100 years, they've been screaming how dangerous and chaotic Mexico is. And what they do is treat Mexico like some kind of cartoon villain. This isn't a mistake though. They paint it this way because it's all about power and deception. And on top of those things, it's really about profit. Their plan is to feed you fear, so you never actually see the full picture. That's why today I'm going to put the end to this nonsense with 15 lies that the news in the U.S.A. says about Mexico that no one should ever believe. Number one, Mexico is in South or Central America. They talk about Mexico like it's floating somewhere between Brazil and Argentina, or maybe Antarctica, as if it packed its bags and moved south for some reason. That's the respect that the US and these people on the news give when they talk about Mexico and where it actually is. Here's the truth though. The truth that gets skipped. Mexico is in North America, right alongside the US and Canada. The continent doesn't just start and stop at the border. It stretches wide and Mexico is a huge part of it. But why does this lie matter? Because it's not oops, we missed a question on a quiz. It's a way of making Mexico seem far away, like it's foreign. And it just makes it disconnected from the rest of the world, or from the US really. And it feels that way because they wanted to make it seem like it doesn't belong. That trick makes it easier to treat Mexico like it's some other place, filled with other problems, lots of problems. Instead of a country that is part of the same continent, where millions of people from the US vacation and actually live. Kids already know this from school. You've seen the map. You've colored it with crayons. Mexican's right there touching the border with the US. It's not chilling with the penguins way down at the bottom of the world. Yet the people that are paid to tell the truth on TV somehow miss what every third grader learns by looking at a globe. Number two, all of Mexico is just a dangerous war zone. Turn on American news and it sounds like Mexico is one giant video game map in GTA 5. Explosions, chaos, people running for cover, and the newscasters' voices, they get serious, the music gets dramatic, and suddenly Mexico's painted like a place where nobody can walk outside without their helmet or bulletproof vest. But here's the bottom line. Mexico is a huge country with over 120 million people. Yeah, sure, there are dangerous spots. I'm not saying there isn't. I never say that it's perfect. But there's also dangerous spots in New York, Chicago, LA, and many other cities in the US. And yet, millions of tourists every year fly to Mexico and relax on beaches. They relax on the beaches in places like Cancun. They walk the streets of places like Mexico City, which is the biggest city in North America. And a lot of people even explore ancient pyramids without any trouble whatsoever. This myth that it's all danger all the time, it sticks. And it sticks because fear grabs eyeballs. And these news networks need eyeballs to make money and survive. A peaceful farmer planting corn doesn't make headlines. But a shootout clip on this loop that repeats over and over again, that gets a lot of attention. So next time the news tries to sell you this war zone version of Mexico, that it's everywhere, picture this instead. Beaches full of tourists, families eating at markets on Sunday, and people trying to just live normal life, everyday normal life. It's just like every other country in the world. 99% of the people in the world, they just want to live a normal life and survive. Mexico isn't any different. It's not a place that's collapsing, they want you to believe. Number three, all Mexicans are criminals and super violent. American news loves to act like every Mexican is just walking around with a ski mask and a getaway car. It's the oldest TV trick in the book. Pick a group, slap on the dangerous title or the label, and replay it until people believe it. But here's the truth. Mexicans aren't any more criminal than anyone else on the planet. In fact, studies show that Mexican immigrants in the US commit fewer crimes than the US citizens. Yeah, they commit less crimes than the people that were born in the US. So yeah, statistically, your Mexican neighbor who migrated to the US recently is less likely to break the law than that guy that's on TV screaming how dangerous Mexicans are. This lie sticks because it's simple and dramatic. And scaring people gets more views than telling the truth. You'll never see them cut to a live feed of a Mexican grandma making tamales in her own kitchen, because that type of story doesn't get views. It doesn't get clicks. It's so sticky that even when the facts are proved wrong, people will still argue that fact and still just say it anyways, no matter what they heard or what they seen. And most of the time it's for their own selfish reasons. Selfish reasons like the media making money off that narrative. So next time someone tells you the lie that all Mexicans are criminals, just remember the truth. Remember the facts. Number 4, all Mexican immigrants are lazy. Turn on the news and you'll hear this same tired line. They say it without saying it, you know? Mexicans and other immigrants are either lazy or freeloaders. The way that it's repeated is just, it boggles my mind. And when you hear this over and over again, you would probably think that Mexicans show up late, take naps all day, and refuse to work unless there's a taco at every 5 minutes or something like that. That's the same old cartoon stereotype that's been painted over and over again for well over 100 years. Maybe over 150 years, maybe longer. But here's the truth. Mexican immigrants are some of the hardest working people on this planet, hands down. And I'm not just saying that. Just look around. Who's building homes, harvesting crops, running restaurants, fixing cars, graduating from colleges at record levels? The U.S. economy would probably collapse faster than a Jenga tower if immigrant workers suddenly clocked out. The lazy myth is dangerous because it works like an optical illusion. People see immigrants in certain jobs, like construction or landscaping, and the news spins it as proof of low skilled or no ambition. And what's left out is how many immigrants actually in the US own businesses, work in tech, and teach in schools and colleges. And the lazy label collides with another lie, that immigrants are stealing American jobs. Which one is it? Are they lazy or are they stealing? News channels just can't pick a lane, can they? So they shout both angles and hopefully nobody notices. But you know what? Some of us have noticed. It's a pretty messed up way of creating attention if you really ask me. But what do I know? Now, number 5, Mexico is a failed narco state. News stations in the US love to act like every street in Mexico is run by the cartel boss. It's some guy, gold chain, sunglasses, maybe a mustache, with a bunch of henchmen around him with guns. They push this story that Mexico is basically one giant cartel movie, with the president of Mexico taking orders from some guy in a cowboy hat and cowboy boots. If you believe the news, you think ordering tacos in Mexico City means checking in with a cartel first to see if the salsa is allowed, or something stupid like that. Here's the truth though. In Mexico, they do face a lot of violent crimes and organized crime and things like that. And some regions of Mexico are dangerous for people to go there that aren't from there. But the idea that cartels are just everywhere and control everything and you see them everywhere, it's just pure exaggeration. Mexico has functioning cities, a strong government, elections, schools, universities, hospitals, and millions of people just living, hundreds of millions, 100 million people just living normal lives every single day. So calling Mexico a failed state from outside is like saying that Gotham is real because you watch a Batman cartoon once. This myth sticks because it makes headlines dramatic and simple. Makes it very simply dramatic. Instead of explaining how complicated the politics or the economy is, because all politics and economies are difficult and they're very complicated, the news anchors, they just simplify it. And they take Mexico and they say that it equals narco and chaos. They don't mention Mexico's booming tech sector, its role of being one of the biggest car manufacturers in the world, or how Mexican culture dominates on a global stage. No, all that stuff is too boring for TV. Nobody wants to watch it. It's easier to show one cartel video and pretend it's the whole country that's burning. And that's a better version of Mexico to sell to people instead of selling the truth. Number 6, Mexico exports most of the fentanyl to the U.S.A. The news script is always the same. Mexico is the villain, shipping fentanyl like it's Amazon Prime Day every day. Cartons of poison being rushed north in this flow of endless boxes. It's really a clean story with a clear bad guy, but it's also a giant half-truth. Here's the real picture. Yes, much of the fentanyl that enters the US comes through the border from Mexico, but most of those chemicals to make the fentanyl, they don't come from Mexico at all. They're imported from places like China or India. And then what happens is that they're made in Mexican labs and then shipped over to the USA. But it's shipped over there because the demand inside of the US for this is enormous. The US is the biggest fentanyl market in the world. Blaming Mexico alone is like blaming your pizza delivery guy for your stomach ache after you eat too many slices. But why does this Mexico is flooding the US thing? Why does it stay so hot on TV? Or why does it come out of political leaders' mouths? Because it shifts the blame. Pointing fingers to the South just makes that drug problem in the US somebody else's fault instead of actually looking at their own addiction problem, their own mental health problem. The US drug demand is massive. And pretending that Mexico created this, it's just a political shortcut. Without American money funding cartels and American users driving this demand, there wouldn't be $1 billion fentanyl trade. It actually takes two sides to make a black market run. There's producers and buyers. And yet the news never really ever shows that second half of the story. It never approaches it where it needs to be handled. Number 7, crossing the border wall is super easy. The news in the US loves to show grainy clips of people climbing walls or slipping under fences. Like the border is a playground or a jungle gym for these people. The story is always the same. Anyone can stroll right into the US. They make it sound like crossing into the US from Mexico is as simple as hopscotch at recess. Here's the truth though. Crossing that border is extremely dangerous. And a lot of times it's deadly. The wall is difficult to climb and patrolled by border patrol agents, drones, trucks, and cameras. And on top of that, the desert is just relentless. It's brutal. Freezing cold at night, and in the day, the heat can be scorching. And miles of nothing but sand, snakes, and rocks. People do risk their lives by crossing, and many don't make it. If it were that easy, over 80,000 people wouldn't have died trying to cross the border since 1990. So why does the news keep saying it's simple? Because chaos at the border makes for attractive and dramatic headlines. It makes Americans think that the border and the wall is just useless. The government is asleep or something like that. And they make you think that danger is pouring in every single second. But there's another dark layer to this. When migrants are criminalized and locked up in detention centers, guess what happened? Private companies cash in large. They make a lot of money. Billions flow to corporations running immigration jails and border camps. So the fear doesn't only make ratings, it makes for huge profits for the rich and powerful. Number 8, that Mexico has no real education. The news often talks about Mexico like it doesn't have any serious schools. There's no teachers, there's no university, there's nothing like that. They make it seem like it's only kids sitting under palm trees reading books, while the US is the real place to get an education. Just like Mexico has nothing to offer. But here's the truth. Mexico has a massive education system with millions of students and the top programs that rival schools worldwide. There's a school called UNAM in Mexico. It's one of the biggest universities in the world. They have Mexican scientists working in medicine, space research, and a ton of technology. So really, education is alive and thriving here. Yet the US acts like the education in Mexico doesn't exist at all. So why does this myth stick? It's because the US likes to put on their crown and say that they're the best at everything, especially at brains and talent. And by ignoring Mexico's schools, the story is simple. The USA equals smart and Mexico equals uneducated. And uneducated is dangerous. The thing is that it's not actually facts. It's about pride building. And most likely it's about profit. But it erases generations of Mexican students working hard to achieve at every single level in the entire world. So the next time you hear that Mexico doesn't have a real education or anywhere where you can get a real education, remember, millions of students are proving that lie wrong every single day here. It's just complete nonsense. Number 9, the USA is the only land of opportunity. They love to puff their chest in the US and say, only in America you can chase your dreams. They repeat this thing like it's some magic spell that all of us need to believe. As if every invention, success story, and rags to riches tales ever, like it just only happens there. The slogan sounds good on TV, but it also throws shade at places like Mexico. and really every other country. They're all empty wastelands where ambition just goes to die. But here's the truth. Opportunity exists everywhere in the world, including Mexico. Mexico has booming industries in cars, techs, films, food, sports, and so much more. Just look at the tech startups that are growing in cities like Monterrey or Guadalajara. The only in America myth sticks because it's patriotic candy. It makes viewers really proud. And at the same time, they ignore the reality that opportunity exists outside of the US. And here's the twist. Tons of American companies rely on Mexican opportunity. Factories, research centers, and entire industries operate in Mexico because it's profitable. If Mexico had no opportunities, those companies wouldn't just set up shop here. The phrase only in America erases every other truth about everywhere else. It's kind of like your boss saying, only this company offers good jobs, while the competitor across the street is hiring, paying well, and booming with success. Now that's what the US is telling people, pretending that America owns all of the opportunity. And in the background, Mexico is quietly building its own opportunities for a better future. Number 10, Mexico doesn't care about the environment. The news often skips or downplays Mexico's role in protecting this planet. The story they push is that their neighbors to the south are dirty, they're polluted, and they're careless, and they don't care about the environment. To viewers, it's the same old story about Mexico. They paint a picture of smoggy cities, trash-filled rivers, and zero progress whatsoever. But here's the truth. Mexico is a leader in environmental protection across Latin America. The country has massive protected natural reserves, from rainforests in Chiapas to coral reefs off the coast. They're actually one of the first developing nations to pass climate change law, setting real targets to cut carbon emissions. Wind farms spin in Oaxaca. Solar fields stretch across the desert in Sonora. And cities are building bike lanes and electric transport. There's a ton of Mexicans that fight every day to protect jungles, waters, oceans, beaches, and wildlife. Why does this myth stick? It's because it's easier to sell an image of pollution than progress. A shot of traffic in Mexico City with this yellow filter on it makes better for TV, and it sells better than just a bunch of solar panels stretched out in the desert. The stereotype of dirty Mexico is an old wives' tale, and networks just keep recycling it over and over again. And honestly, I think it's quite exhausting. Number 11, Mexico's economy is weak and useless. You hear it again and again. They imply that Mexico's poor, weak, and hanging by a thread. They talk like the entire country is begging for scraps or something like that, as if Mexico can't build, create, or compete in the world. The picture that they paint is this country that's stuck in the past, living off tacos and just tourist dollars. But what's really going on is that Mexico is one of the largest economies in the world. By size, it's bigger than many European countries that get way more respect than they do. It's a global powerhouse in cars, electronics, oil, and agriculture. Entire industries in the US depend on Mexican factories, workers, and Mexican trade. So if its economy is really that useless, why are American companies moving production here and investing billions as I speak right now? This myth is very sticky because poor and weak, it makes a very good story. It makes viewers believe that Mexico depends on the US for survival. What the news actually leaves out is that Mexico is the US's biggest trading partner, with billions flowing back and forth over the border every month. Mexico isn't begging. It's not begging for scraps. What it's doing is building. It's building its present, fueling its ambition, and leading the way for a better future for all Mexicans. Anyone that's still calling Mexico weak isn't paying attention. They're not paying attention at all. What they're doing is ignoring the truth and just living in the past. Number 12, everyone in Mexico wants to move to the US. Now the news there loves to share this idea that every single Mexican wants to just fly over the border or climb the wall into the United States, take a submarine, dig a tunnel, and live there legally or illegally. They frame it like Mexico's a country that has nothing to offer, but 100 million people plus packing their bags ready to leave all at once, racing north like it's the finish line on Mario Kart or something like that. The message is clear. Nobody actually wants to stay in Mexico. I guess I'm the only one that wants to stay here then. Here's the truth. Most Mexicans are proud to live in their own country and have no plans to leave whatsoever. And I've gotten countless comments on my other videos from Mexicans that live in the US that say they just miss living back in Mexico. They just miss their home. And some of those people are actually saying that they're going to move back in the future. Now, if everybody really wanted out, Mexico wouldn't be full of families, festivals, universities, and some of the biggest cities in the world. So just explain that then. The myth sticks because it's flattering for the US. Everybody wants to live here, they tell themselves. And yeah, sure, some do. But those messages are meant for those people watching the news to make them feel very special. And it also makes Mexico look weak by comparison. They make it sound like Mexico is a place that you only leave and you never stay. But what gets erased in this message is the pride that Mexicans feel for their own culture, their food, their history, and their opportunities. And what they hear over and over again is that they're told that their entire existence is worthless. And that's just not the real facts. Number 13, American companies only send jobs to Mexico. That's a one-way truth that American companies only ship jobs to Mexico. The way that the news tells it is like sneaky factories pack up at night and drive across the border before anyone sees it and before anyone notices it. And what they do is they leave American towns jobless and poor. It's framed like Mexico is stealing work and money, while the US is a poor victim. And once again, Mexico is pitched as really this evil character, the bad guy. Here's the truth though. Trade and jobs move in both directions. Some factories are set up in Mexico, but Mexican companies also invest in the US. Car makers, food companies, and tech firms hire American workers too. The US and Mexico are each other's biggest trading partners, which means jobs and money flow both ways. It's not just one way. This myth sticks because it's easy politics. They stole our jobs, sounds good on TV, and rallies the crowds, but never makes it on the news or to the crowd or the masses is how complex this situation actually is. That many US companies choose Mexico because of the efficiency, skilled workers, and the fact that Mexico is close to the US. Number 14, Mexico's value is only in its cheap labor. The news loves to suggest that the US only cares about Mexico for one reason, and that's its cheap labor. The story goes on and on about the same thing all the time, that Mexicans are hired just because they're cheaper and they cost less, not because they have skills or talents or brains. It's a lazy stereotype that reduces a whole country to nothing more than discount workers. Here's the truth though, Mexico's value isn't just cheap labor, it's skilled labor. The country produces world-class engineers, doctors, architects, scientists, and creatives. Mexican designers, they shape global fashion. Mexican chefs win awards all over the world. And the Mexican factories don't just make t-shirts. They build cars, airplanes, and medical equipment that people all over the world use. If it were just about cheap, why would American companies trust Mexico with products that require detailed precision, safety, and innovation? And cheap labor just makes it sound like Mexico's just surviving on US scraps, when the reality is a strong trade partnership that both sides benefit from. Mexico is America's top trading partner, like I said earlier. And the reasons are because of the quality, the speed, and the skill, not just the low wages. And this view, I think, is twisted by those who need to twist it to benefit for themselves, for their own gain, for things like views, votes, power, and of course, money. Number 15, they paint Mexicans as economic threats. American news has been recycling the same tired headline over and over for over a century now. Mexicans are a threat to Americans' economy. In the early 1900s, politicians and newspapers used to use this phrase, the Mexican problem. But they used it to scare people into thinking that workers were ruining wages, flooding towns, and destroying jobs. But fast forward to today, and you still hear these people on TV and on social media repeating these words, ranting about it. They're job stealing immigrants, they say. It's like the same script with a fresh coat of paint. Maybe the paint isn't even fresh. But here's the truth. Mexican workers don't destroy economies. They actually help build them. From farms to factories and tech startups, labor and trade, they actually help a lot of the US industries run. Crops don't get picked, cars don't get made, and supply chains don't move without Mexican hands and really partnerships from Mexico. Far from being a threat, Mexico is one of the reasons American businesses stay competitive in the global market. This myth sticks because fear is so easy to sell. Telling your viewers that someone is taking something from you will get more attention. It will get more attention than if they were telling people someone is helping you. And the irony is that many of these same people who complain about job stealing Mexicans rely on goods, food, and services that only exist because of these workers. They yell about these thieves while munching on guacamole from Mexican avocados. So I don't know. They've all got it kind of twisted. The news in the US has lied about Mexico for years. Maps, jobs, danger, culture, it's all been twisted around. They sell fear and they erase pride. The truth is simple. Mexico is strong, creative, and essential, not just to the US, but the entire world. If you've made it this far, I guess you like this video. And if that's true, click this video right here. I think you'll like it too. It's a list of the lies that Hollywood has been saying about Mexico for years now. So just click it, go watch it, and I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.